Hey, how's it going? It's Sean Bradshaw from Cyberfret.com, and in this lesson I'm going to go over how to get to know the names of the notes on the neck of the guitar. Getting to know the names of the notes on the neck is important for a few different reasons, and both for playing rhythm guitar and for lead guitar. For rhythm guitar, when we're kind of moving around different chord shapes, we have to kind of line up and find the root of different chords. You know, when you're playing basic kind of open position chords, that's one thing, but when you start doing things like movable chords, bar chords, power chords, in order to know where to play those on the neck, you need to know what the names of the notes are. And especially in the beginning, getting to know the fifth and the sixth string, because a lot of, again, basic bar chords, power chords, have the root of the chord either on the fifth or the sixth string. And for lead guitar, you know, getting to know what position you need to play in. A lot of basic scales have the root on the sixth string, and so at the very least we want to get to know what the names of the notes are on the sixth string so you can move around different scales. If I'm playing an A major scale, I need to know that the fifth fret on the sixth string is an A note. Or I want to play a G minor pentatonic scale, I need to know that the third fret on the sixth string is a G. So I can play, you know, my lead guitar stuff in the right position. So first thing is, we need to get to know what the names of the open strings are. So starting with the sixth string, the open strings are E, A, D, G, B, and E. And, you know, if it helps, you can come up with some sort of, you know, phrase to help you with those. Personally, I've never found those of much use for myself, so I don't have any good ones to share. Every alligator deserves grapefruit because eats. All right, so, you know, come up with a phrase that makes sense to you, but, you know, really it's just kind of, for me, it was always just kind of repetition and going over what those, the names of the notes were. All right, so once you know what the names of the open strings are, you can figure out everything else from there. All right, so an important thing, an important little bit of musical information is that all natural notes, and a natural note is A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, all natural notes are a whole step apart except between E and F and B and C. Now, a whole step is 2 frets on the guitar. A half step is 1 fret on the guitar. So all natural notes are a whole step apart, except between E and F and B and C, which are a half step apart. So all natural notes are 2 frets apart, except between E and F and B and C, which are 1 fret apart. So as long as you know that, you can figure out where all the natural notes are on the neck of the guitar, as long as you know what the open strings are. Now also, if you're familiar with piano at all the white keys are the natural notes, and the black keys are the sharps and flats, and we're going to talk about sharps and flats here in just a second. But there is no black key on a piano between E and F and B and C. So that's where the natural half steps are. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get to know the names of the notes on the sixth string, starting with the open sixth string E. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way up the neck, and I'm going to stop for the moment at the 12th fret. That's where on my guitar you see the double dots, and your guitar probably has something similar to that, and that is what's referred to as the octave. So the open sixth string is E, and if I play the note on the 12th fret, that's also an E, what's called an octave higher. All right, so E is open. Between E and F is the half step, so F is going to be at the 1st fret. And then between F and G is a whole step, so I move up 2 frets. Between G and A is a whole step, so I move up 2 frets. in the musical alphabet, when I reach G and go up one, it starts over again. So it's A. From A to B is a whole step, so I move up 2. From B to C is a half step. That's our natural half steps, E and F and B and C. Then from C up to D is a whole step. And then from D to E is a whole step. So I was able to figure out where all of those natural notes were on the 6th string just by knowing that the natural half steps are between E and F and B and C. Now, I could continue on up, and I'm on my acoustic guitar, so it's unlikely I'm going to go up too far on my neck. Electric, you might do more, but it just continues. So, this is E, up a half step, B, F, can't see G, and so on. But for right now, I'm going to focus on everything below, up to the 12th fret and below, because that's really, especially when you're first playing scales and chords, that's where your focus is going to be. All right, so once you've gone up to the 12th fret, now we're going to go back down. Now here's a dumb little thing I tell everybody to practice. With my private students, I ask them to say, all right, say your alphabet from A to G. And they go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now say it from G back to A. And then they go G, F, E. Well, Big Bird did not teach you how to say your alphabet backwards. And so it's one of those dumb little things I tell everybody to do is practice your alphabet from G back to A. Now, is it going to be, a month of you grueling to try to figure that out? No. Probably once you do it a couple of times, you're going to have the idea. But in music, you want to be able to think forward and backward in those first 7 letters in the alphabet pretty quick. And I'm guessing that, as long as English is your, main language or one that you're familiar with, you can name the alphabet forwards quickly. Naming backwards, for some reason, we're not so good at. So I'm starting here at the 12th fret, E. And what I'm going to do is work my way backwards now. So I have E. D is going to be down 2 frets. C is going to be down 2 frets. But then B is just going to be a half step. So I'm going to go down 1 fret, down 2 frets to get to the A, down 2 frets to get to the G, down 2 frets to the F, and then the open. So that's the first thing, is in getting to know the names of the notes on the 6th string, I'm going to start with the open, work my way up to the 12th fret, and then go all the way back down. All right. Next, getting to know the names of the notes on the 5th string. And the 5th and 6th string are the most important ones to work on, at least at first, because, again, basic scales, basic things like bar chords are going to have their roots on the 5th and 6th string, at least to begin with. And so those are the ones I always suggest learning first, and then work on the other strings. And, once you learn the 6th string, you also know the 1st string because they're the same notes. So then all you have to do is worry about the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. So 5th string, open 5th string is A. So again, just going through the process, we go A to B is a whole step. From the open to the 2nd fret is 2 frets. C, that's our natural half step, so C is up a half step. D, up a whole step. E, up a whole step. F, up a half step. Between E and F and B and C are the half steps. Up another whole step to get to G, and up another whole step to get to A. And then back down, back to G, down a whole step to F, down a half step to E, down a whole step to D, down a whole step to C, down a half step to B, and then open A. Okay? So that's the first step. 5th and 6th string, naming the notes up to the 12th fret, and then back down. Now, we want to be able to jump to these notes quickly. If somebody says play a D chord with root on the 5th string, you don't want to have to go, oh, A, B, C, D. Oh, okay. You want to just be able to jump right to where that is. And so this kind of next exercise I'm going to show you, I'm going to start this on the 6th string. Here's what you want to do. So I'm going to start off with picking 4 notes, E, F, G, and A. And what I'm going to do is just jump around randomly within those 4 notes and just name them. E, G, A, F, G, A, F, A, G. Once I've got those 4 notes kind of under control, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in one more note higher, the B. And now I'm going to jump around within those set of notes. B, F, G, A, F, B. All right. Then once I've got that, I'm going to add in the C note, and I'm going to jump around within those set of notes until I get all of them on the 6th string up to that 12th fret. All right. So if you do that on both your 5th and 6th string for really just about a minute every day, go up, back down, and then do that kind of jumping around, you're going to get to know what the names of those notes are on the 5th and 6th string fairly soon. Just make sure you keep consistent on it. It's something that will hold you back a lot, especially if you're trying to play things like scales and chords higher on the neck. Every time you have to kind of go through the process of counting up to figure out where everything is. All right. Now, you can also use, get to use the fret markers to kind of help you get used to where different things are. Most guitars have fret markers at the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, and then the 12th. And then they continue on up further. We're, again, kind of focusing on up to the 12th fret right now, but just remember everything kind of just repeats up in the higher positions. But the reason why they go every other note or every other fret and then skip up to that 12th fret is because, again, that 12th fret is the octave, and that's why it doesn't just continue 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. It goes up 12, so we get the octave right there. Right. Now, once you have the natural notes under control, sharps and flats are just in between the cracks, in between the natural notes. And so here I have an F note on the 1st fret of the 6th string. If I was to move up 1 fret, that's what's referred to as an F sharp. All right. So F sharp is just a half step higher than F natural. Now, if I go to G here, and I lower that note by a half step, and go down to that 2nd fret, that is a G flat. So flat is going down 1 fret from a natural note, down a half step. F sharp and G flat are exactly the same sound. It's just 2 ways to name the same note. And it really depends on the situation, which one you're going to call it. In the key of G, I'm not going to call this G flat. I'm going to call it F sharp. And it's kind of beyond this lesson to go into the theory of why you might, in different situations, call different notes. But for the most part, right now, just call it either one. All right, both are correct. Now, so if I have, G here, go up 1 fret, that's G sharp, or it's A flat. Now, we had those natural half steps between E and F and B and C, and if I have a B note here and I go up 1 fret, that's C, but in reality, it's also B sharp. A lot of times, mistakenly, people think there is no B sharp because of that natural half step, but there is. There is a B sharp. It's just that it's also called C, and there's got to be good reason why we're going to call it B sharp. Most of the time, if you play the 3rd fret, you are not going to call it B sharp, you're going to call it C. But just realize that technically it is also a B sharp, in the same way that if I take a C and move it down a half step, that is C flat. So, or if I have E moving up 1 fret, it's E sharp, which is also F. Or F going down 1 fret is F flat. But most of the time, for what you're going to be thinking about the names of the notes, you're not going to be calling that, but just realize that for certain reasons, certain keys, certain chords, you actually would call those by, F flat or E sharp. All right, so just spend a little bit of time each day going over the 5th and the 6th string, getting to know where the natural notes are first, really, once you have the natural notes under control, just remember sharps and flats are in between the cracks, in between those natural notes. Once you have those two strings, then you can go on and start working on the fourth, third, and second strings, because as you do more advanced chords and more advanced kind of lead guitar things, you really do need to know what the names and the notes are on all the strings going up the neck. But fifth and sixth string are your first task.